Nicole of Live Well Collaborative, welcome to the Further Forward podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. I have been watching your journey online literally since the COVID days, and
Mhm.
I'm really excited to talk about your evolution and what you've built because I went from watching your story to now watching how you've used everything that you've been doing and learning into a business and now helping others. So this will be a very cool podcast for people. I'm excited for them to hear it. But I start every podcast the same way. How are you and who are you?
I, you know, I've been thinking about this because I've listened to all the episodes and
Thank
added
you
it.
very
And
much.
I've been thinking about this all week. And I'm sure everybody says this, but every day it's something different, right? Um, Today, my energy is a little like this. I'm
Yeah,
okay, but we're
yeah,
doing it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
who am I? I'm Nicole Pichette, owner of Live Well Collaborative. I am, oh gosh, so many things. I'm an investigator. I'm a puzzle solver. I'm a deep thinker. I'm a
Mm,
deep feeler. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a healer. I'm intuitive.
mm.
I'm a wanderluster. I love nature. I'm a little witchy. Um, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. You should own all of your parts and your
Yeah.
interests, and you've invested in yourself enough to be able to say who you are with your full chest. Now, let's start with what you do so that will inform the rest of the conversation so people aren't just like, well, how is she qualified to talk about all these things? So, in terms of in terms of your career, what do you do and how have you parlayed the last, I don't know, however many years into Live Well Collaborative?
Yeah, so I'm a board certified internal medicine family nurse practitioner. I've been practicing in primary care for just about 13 years. Last year, I was certified by the Menopause Society as well as the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Um,
Congrats.
I'm also a yoga teacher. I got certified in yoga. I have my RYT 200. I don't even think people talk about that anymore. That was way back in 2003.
Wow.
And then in 2023, I started my Reiki certification. So I'm a level 2 Reiki practitioner as well.
Okay.
And we'll get into this, but I've had a slew of my own health journeys throughout my life. And I've taken everything that I've learned, both personally and professionally, and I've created Live Well Collaborative, which is an integrative medicine practice. And a lot of people don't really know what that means.
Yes.
So it's a blend. I integrate pieces from every facet really and into one really comprehensive, wholly holistic perspective. So I'm using science. First and foremost, I'm using evidence-based medicine, both from a traditional standpoint, but also lifestyle medicine. I've been practicing lifestyle medicine. My people that I went to school with when we started in 2010, like I was the hippie crunchy one talking about yoga and movement as medicine when everybody was learning about medications and everything. So this
Mm,
is something I've been doing forever. And I finally made it official last year. And that is also evidence based. I also have a functional medicine background. I started training, I went through a full year of it a little over a decade ago. And
mhm.
I started training through the IFM, and then I ended up not completing that. But I do have an intense passion for, and I hate this term, finding the root cause. But
Yeah.
I feel like people resonate with that, and
Yeah.
it's not medicine. Traditional medicine these days is so piecemeal, and we are a full complex body. Everything is connected. And so at the end of the day, that's what these functional medicine providers and the integrated medicine providers are doing is we're looking at the whole complete picture and tying everything together. Um, so yeah, that's, professionally, that's what I've done. And again, I've had a lot of personal history and I created this practice as so many of us in this seat do. It's because it's the medicine I needed. I needed it in my 20s. I needed it in my 30s. If I wasn't already practicing this on myself, I would definitely be needing it in my 40s. But I'm thankful that to have already have had the foundation by the time I hit this point.
So if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, do I need to ditch my PCP and get a functional medicine doctor or lean more into integrative medicine? Do you think that's true? Should someone be running for the hills, or is it individualized? Are there certain problems that might be presenting that we should consider seeing someone else for?
Really great question, and it's yes and no and all of the things, right?
Yeah, of course.
I truly feel this is the medicine of the future. Um, in my 13 years as a PCP, they have 2 buckets of people. The people who want the Band-Aids, the quick fixes, they don't wanna hear anything about my movement or sleep recommendations, right? Just give me a pill and fix it for me. That's one bucket.
Mhm.
Then I've got the people who are suffering. They've been shuttled from this person, that person. They've done all the medications and they still feel like crap and they still know that there's something going on and nobody's figuring it out for them.
Wow.
So, 2 very ends of the spectrum. But in the last, I want to say, call it 4 years. Time is such a warp since COVID,
I
but call
know.
it
I
four
know.
years. Yeah, I've got these people in a third bucket where they don't want the band-aids. They're not quite at the place where they're really, really struggling, but they're like, well, I've seen that and I don't want to get there. So they're trying to come up with ways to improve their situation now, kind of maximize again, optimizing health is a big cush term
Yeah.
that's thrown out there these days.
Mhm.
But again, people resonate with it, so it can be
Yeah.
useful in this situation. They want to do things now. They want to get ahead of their health before things get ahead of them.
Right.
So, does everybody need this style of medicine? It depends. What kind of life are they living? It's interesting. The body's talking to us all day long,
Oh,
and not everybody can hear it. A lot of people can't hear it until it's too
yes.
late. So I like
Yes.
having the discussions with everybody, but unless you're ready to hear it, you don't need it,
Mhm.
if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. It makes me think of my every time I go in to see my primary care, who's a DO,
Mhm.
and he's a white man in his 40s, and how I've ended up connected to this person, like, I think because if you know me, you'd be like, "Really? Like, she's okay." But when I moved to New England from New Jersey, he was a guy who took my insurance and I could get in with, and so I'm just like, "Okay, whatever." And I ended up really loving him, and I've been seeing him since 2014.
Mm,
And he knows that I'm a fitness instructor. He knows that I take my health really seriously. And so he's talking to me about people just wanting band aids and wanting quick fixes. Not everybody wants to listen to their body. Like, people are
mhm.
just like, I have enough going on. Just fix it.
Exactly. Mhm.
Well, first of all, it's mind-blowing, but second of all, do you even bother with the people who like as you are creating your content specifically online? Are you ever talking to those people? Are you ever trying to convince people of the power that they hold themselves, or is that just not even your clientele?
Um, that's a really good question, and a lot of my mentors told me, like, "You need to find a way to reach the people who need you
Mm,
because they don't see it. They don't understand why. They don't understand the benefit. I feel like the people that I'm speaking to, they're already in the universe of something's not quite right. I want to do something to help, but I'm so freaking overwhelmed. I don't know
yeah,
where to start. So I try to make things simplified. And one of my catchphrases is these things are simple, but they sure as shit aren't easy,
no,
right? It is not easy, but it's simple.
yeah,
It's not complicated. It's not
right,
hard, but not hard in a sense of like complicated, but it's not
right.
easy to incorporate. And another thing I talk about with a lot of my clients is choosing our hard. It is hard to
Mm,
meal prep. It is hard to carve out 2 hours of my Sunday every single weekend to meal prep.
amen.
It is hard to get out of bed and move my body. And, of course there are extremes and not every day is like this, but I know that if I don't get up and move my body, I'm going to be cranky. I'm going to be in
Yeah.
pain. That's going to
Yes.
impact my mental health. It may
Yeah.
impact how I'm going to fuel myself. Well, then it's just going to make me feel even worse. So it's this cascading effect.
Right.
But that took me 10 years to learn. So it's a matter of choosing your hard. Okay, I'm going to learn that this is what's going to be most beneficial to me. Or my hard is I'm going to continue to put band-aids on it. And then, in clinic, in my primary care clinic, I've got 30-year-olds who have the health of a 70-year-old. And
God.
I'm really afraid for them that they're going to have a heart attack before they hit 40.
Wow.
And that's terrifying. And the reality is there are so many people living like this.
Mhm.
And it's so tricky. And, it's very frustrating working in the traditional sense because we're so limited by insurance and we're so
Right.
limited by the broken system that we have.
Right.
And you pull in any healthcare provider from any domain and you're hearing the same story, right? Whether we're talking about PT, whether we're talking about dermatology, like it doesn't matter who you're talking to. Everybody is limited and frustrated and strapped. And so we have a lot of providers who they don't even bother talking about diet or exercise because it's like my patients aren't going to listen to me. I don't have any time. I'm going to get dinged because we can't bill for this. So
Yeah.
it's just so many things piling on top. And that's why, people get so frustrated with traditional medicine. And I get it. I get it. It's really, really hard on all ends. And there are some of us who are still fighting the good fight, or at least trying to. I got to a point where it's like, I can't do what I want to do with patients in
Yeah.
this setting. And that's why I've got to branch out and do a private practice. So that's really where that momentum came. And the benefits that I've seen in people have just been so remarkable. I have people who they're doing really comprehensive programs involving medications and a lot of other things. But I have a whole host of people who they do one, I do a really in-depth consultation. They do one, I give them strategies. They go away for a few months and I get messages 3, 6 months later, like, my life is completely changed by
Wow.
these 3 things you told me to do.
Wow.
And it's wild. And it takes somebody who can hear the story, put the pieces together, and suggest something that they themselves never would have even thought of. And I'm not suggesting crazy things, right?
Right.
I'm not
Right.
suggesting this like wild thing. It's like, I'm hearing this. What if we tweak this a little bit? And it's also like, we've got to meet people where they're at. I can tell you 17 things to do, but if you have capacity to do 0.75, well, let's start there.
Right.
And, there's a lot of mismatch there too that people get into with certain providers. So
Mm.
it's such a I can swear in here. It's a mind
Yes, you
fuck.
can.
Like switching my brain from my clinic days to my private practice days. It's wild. Yeah.
I bet it is. I mean, this is also why I think in light of the Epstein files and, Peter Attia being in them, I'm seeing online, and this is a part of why I just spend less time on Instagram because I'm like, just
Yeah.
shut up. Everyone's an expert after the fact, right? And now people are being like, well, this is why you don't listen to these guys and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but if people don't have insurance or have shitty insurance,
Mhm.
or if they can't go pay, extra money for more in-depth blood work or whatever, of course they're going to turn to the free
Mhm.
resources. Of course they're going to turn to people who seem like experts, who
Mhm.
seem like they're you know, giving us information that will help us to live longer and live better. And something that like stuck out for me was how some of the diseases that manifest as we get older start when we're younger. Some things take sometimes decades to
Mhm.
present themselves. And that that's kind of like fucking terrifying to me because
Mhm.
you might not know that you're doing something bad to your body until you're sick and it's too late.
Mhm.
So we can't go back. We can't change the past,
Mhm.
but we can move forward
Mhm.
starting from literally this moment. So, what are some of the foundational pillars of health, the simple but not easy things that we should be paying attention to that can make a huge impact now and 20 years from now?
Mhm. It's the boring stuff. It's the boring stuff
Yes.
that no one wants to spend time on. It's not flashy. It's not fancy. it's not trendy, it's the boring stuff. And I just immediately go to, in lifestyle medicine, we call them the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. One, how are we fueling ourselves? There have been so many ways of fueling ourselves that have been studied over the years. And hands down, the Mediterranean diet, it's not a diet, it's just a way of eating, is the most recommended and most studied and the most effective for helping to prevent or reverse cardiovascular disease, cardiometabolic disease. It's showing to help with dementia. So, Mediterranean style diet. So, that's fruits, vegetables, lean protein, nuts, legumes. Two, moving your body.
What if you
You've
like
got
lean protein
hmm.
like not a burger? Or
You can have a
does that count?
burger. No, so you can have a
Does that
burger, but
count?
maybe not 4 nights a week.
Right. Okay.
And
So lean protein, but like kind of vary it up between your fish, your chicken, your if you're doing
exactly,
beef, some people don't do beef.
exactly. Mhm,
Is I'm sorry to like get into the weeds a tiny bit, but like I know I only have this time with you, so I'm like I
mhm,
have to. In terms of alternative proteins like tofu
mhm,
and stuff like that, some of the meat alternatives have lots of like fillers and like all kinds of shit. The ingredient list is huge. And
mhm.
then versus like tofu, it's soybeans or whatever. So
Right.
is we pay attention to that too, right? How
Yeah.
many ingredients are in the alternative stuff?
It's helpful, and this is where it can be such a slippery slope, and
Yeah.
it can turn so restrictive. And speaking as a woman, we've already had restriction nailed into our brains from the moment
Yeah.
we were conceived, basically. And so it's a really slippery slope. And as with a burger, I would say if you are a vegan or a vegetarian and you're doing plant based meals, you want to have a Beyond Burger. Okay, once a week. It's we work with what we've got.
Right.
Tofu is better. Again, there's lots of beans. A lot of the courses I've taken, and I've taken a lot of nutrition courses, but I never pretend to be a dietitian.
Fair.
So, I always, that's my spiel, and I always suggest
Yes.
people actually seek out a professional. But, these beans can be really, really fantastic sources of protein for those who want to avoid animal proteins.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thank you for clearing that up. So we have, I'm even writing these down. So the number one, we have fuel.
Hmm.
You were about to go into movement before I
Yeah.
interrupted you.
Hmm. Movement, I feel like, is, I don't wanna say underrated, but I feel like it's the thing that people lose as they get older, and I'm thinking as they get into their 60s and 70s. If we're talking longevity medicine, big term,
Hmm.
but as people get older, if you are not moving your body, that is so detrimental to everything. It's detrimental to your, obviously, your physical health, your mobility, your ability to stay balanced, your ability to stay upright, your ability to be functional
Hmm.
moving about in your everyday life. And so movement is so important for physical and mental and metabolic health. I feel like a lot of people put fueling ahead of movement, and that's probably true, right? Because if we're thinking about a car, like if we're not filling it with gas and oil, it's just not going to run, period.
Right. Right.
But I find movement is really important. And I myself just, I can't live without movement. I move every single day. And
Amen.
I know we've talked about that too, but it's just so important. And I find that with my older folks, when that falls off, their health declines much more quickly. And obviously our movement ability and goals and how it's going to look different every single decade of life,
Right.
or it usually does.
Right.
I see plenty of 70-year-olds running marathons and 80-year-olds in a CrossFit gym, but that's not everybody. Um,
Yes.
but it's going to change. But at the end of the day, we've got to keep moving our bodies. We've got to stay strong. We've got to keep our bones and our muscles and our brain strong. Um,
Do you sometimes see that there's a line where we're going too far, where we're doing too much, going too hard? Sometimes there's issues around, or like heard we're spiking our cortisol too much. We are creating too much stress in our bodies. Do you think that that's true? That there is a balance in terms of how much like heavy, hard, fast
mhm.
that we should be marrying with slower mobility, yoga, breath, whatever?
Absolutely. And, most of my practice, most of my patients are females. So I'm speaking more from that perspective. I
Mhm.
don't have a good pulse point on how this impacts men.
Right.
But for us, what we know is that too much can impact fertility.
Mhm.
I'm thinking my women who run and run and run for hours and they don't take any days off, and like that can really impact hormones, in terms of family planning and trying to become pregnant. And then I also see it in my perimenopausal women. They are weight is shifting because of the hormonal shift, and now they've got this belly pooch that they've never seen and they don't want and they want to get rid of, and so they go harder, and that can be too much on the body
Yeah.
because, cortisol is a big thing. We need cortisol, right?
Right.
Cortisol is critical. We need it. However, when we're putting too much stress on the body from any avenue, the body goes into a state of fight or flight. And this is, of course, on a big spectrum. And part of
Mhm.
that is holding on to the weight. Part of us, we're still living in cave people days where it's like,
Right.
okay, you're putting me through this big stress. I must be preparing for something. So I've got to hold on to this. So that I do see. And it's very, very challenging for me to tell somebody, you've got to back off. You're
Yeah. They
heavy.
don't believe you.
I know, but I feel like you do a really good, like for you specifically, I feel like you do a good job of balancing it. I'm
Thank
speaking to the
you.
people who are at, say, Orange Theory or CrossFit, 6 days a week, and their rest day is going for a 60-mile run, excuse me, a
Yeah.
60-minute run,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not building in true rest days, that your body is just on go, go, go. You've got to have time to rest and repair both nervous system and for tissue repair. Uh,
Right.
right? I
Right.
mean, this about recovery. We often can't make gains in the way that we want to, whether we're working on speed in a race, whether we're working on how much we can lift in the gym, if you're not giving your tissues adequate time to recover first.
Totally. It's hard to trust that though.
It
Like
really is. Mhm.
I had to I don't know if I would have gotten there if I didn't get pregnant because I only had to stop torturing myself because my body didn't do what I wanted it to do after I had Zion. And I
Mhm.
was like watching, everybody else seemingly bounce back, and I like in air quotes bounce back.
Yeah.
And I assumed that because I was so strong, that I would be able to return to activity in the way I had been much sooner. And my reality was that I actually never went. Like he's going to be 5 in a couple of months, and I can never again do to my body what I did to it before I got pregnant. It just like will not work. It
Mhm.
will obliterate me, but I needed the space in order to be like, "Oh my god, I think I might have been creating more harm than good." But you would never know because I was jacked and skinny and I had this body type that people were always chasing. So I couldn't hear my own body. I couldn't make the connection between all of my injuries and all of my acne and all of my
Mhm.
my poor energy, my poor sleep. I didn't think it was because I was overtraining because I just associated training with good health.
Yeah, and it's so hard. I feel like as much as we talk about it, it's still not talked enough about
Yeah.
what our bodies went through, whether we've had 1 baby or 5 or more. It's our bodies went through an absolute miracle to grow and sustain and then birth another human being. Like, saying that out loud is crazy, right? But we do it every single day,
Yes.
billions of people, and it's wild. And to think that we are expected to go back, I know you also said
I
it in
know.
quotes, it's like, go back to what?
To what?
I just transformed myself in another human being.
Yes.
How can I possibly go back to that? And
Yeah.
even if physically the outward appearance for some people does that, that doesn't change what's happened inside, right? There's still something
Mhm.
massive happened inside, and
Mhm.
we don't talk about that enough.
No, we don't.
Um,
We don't.
and
We
yeah,
don't give
it's
people permission
right.
to
Mhm.
let the journey be what it is. Partly that's part of the reason why I'm building something new and focusing on strength in different ways, because I know that there are other women who need the permission that I've given myself. And then, truth be told, because of how I move my body now, I'm lifting the heaviest I've ever lifted. I get on the little, like, the self-propelling treadmill, and I
Mhm,
sprint at 12 fucking miles an hour,
mhm,
like, without injury, without hurting myself, and I'm like,
mhm.
"You go, bitch." Like, you did
Absolutely.
it, right? Like, you thought you were getting weaker, but you were listening and making yourself stronger just in a different way.
Mhm,
And, similar to you, I'm like, well, now I have to take what I learned and now I have to help other people get there
mhm.
if that's where they want to go.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah.
If they don't wanna hear it, they're not gonna do it,
No, they're not. And that's
or if
fine
they're not
because
ready. Yeah.
yeah, like
Mm.
I don't want to coach anybody who doesn't want to be coached. Like,
You know, I'm sure you've heard this in your yoga training as well, but when the student is ready, the teacher will come, and when the teacher is
amen.
ready, the student will come, and I think about that often in my
Yeah.
role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's such a good way to like put a pin in that.
Mhm.
These 6 pillars are going to be like the whole podcast. Like, I'd have to I'm sorry, but I love it so much. I love it. Okay, so we have fuel and we have movement.
Yeah.
What do we have third?
Sleep, sleep, sleep.
Sleep, yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's the
Who
most
has time? Who
who
has
has
the
time?
time?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the most underrated and probably most powerful thing that we have at our disposal, and it's free. And there's so many excuses why we can't do it. And at the end of the day, you just have to prioritize it. Um, and it's really hard. And I have so many
So
people
hard.
who like pride themselves, oh, I get by on 5 hours of sleep. I'm like, at some point, I don't know when, I don't have a magic ball. At some point, that is going to catch up to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sleep is a big one. And,
Yeah.
I've got my tips. I've heard it as the 3-2-1, 3 hours before bed. Try not to eat anything just to allow your body to get into
I
that
what the
digestive
I
state.
who's
Mhm.
living in that universe? Like, I'm who
And
okay,
again,
so
it's like these
so
are
I
the
have
ideal
to
scenarios,
I
right?
know, but like Jesus. So, okay, all right, go. 3, 2, 1. Let me
Yeah,
shut the fuck up. 3,
yeah.
2, 1, go. 3
So,
hours.
again, ideal scenario, like
Yes.
unicorn scenario. 3 hours before bed is when you stop eating. Really 2, but the ideal situation is 3.
Okay.
2 hours before bed, like your last hydration. Of course, you can have sips and stuff beforehand, but don't go guzzling a huge glass of water
Okay.
within 2 hours of bed, because then you're just asking to wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then the last hour is screens. Which again, which one of us is avoiding screens for a full hour before bed?
I hate everything about that.
Mhm.
Like the
And I
whole
don't live this.
thing.
Just full disclosure, I
But
do not live.
okay, well, thank you because I was feeling like, damn, she's doing it all.
Yeah, I don't live any of these like 100%. There's no
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
That's just
yeah.
impossible. No,
Yeah.
I do live the meal one. So
Okay.
we eat very early with our kids,
Yeah.
and I used to also have a second little mini meal
Yeah.
before bed, and that I found was not serving me.
Yeah.
I was waking up in the middle of the night, I'm assuming because of some blood sugar dysregulation. I was
Probably. Yeah.
puffy, my digestion was off, my energy, I felt like trash in the morning, and
Mm,
so I've cut that out, and my body, I don't
okay.
even want it. And my trick is we eat like grandparents with the kids super early, and then when we put the kids to bed, I brush my teeth, and I'm just done.
And that's
Like,
okay.
yeah.
I
That's what works for me. My husband
yeah.
started doing it as well, and he's feeling better too. And
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like everybody has crazy schedules. I have so many friends who they've got kids who are involved in sports. They didn't get home until 9:30. That's like,
Right.
well, what are we supposed to do? It's like
Well,
we
you
work
have to
with
eat.
theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
we
it's
work with
also like it doesn't have to every phase of life isn't forever.
exactly. Yep,
Right. So
yep.
you do what you got to do to get through. That's what I'm thinking of. Like,
Hmm.
when I teach at night, I'm not getting home until 8:30 and I'm starving because I just gave people
Of course.
everything I had
Yeah.
and yeah, and I'm trying to like shove something into my mouth and get to bed and get ready for the next day. So yeah, I I would love that. I would love to think about like my brain automatically goes to, okay, so what can I do then? Well, maybe the nights that I teach, I do what I have to do to fuel my body, but the nights that I don't teach, what's stopping me? Just because I can't do it 7 days a week doesn't mean I couldn't do it 5
Uh-huh.
or 4 or whatever, right? I
Uh-huh.
think that's another problem in this world of health and wellness in general is that if we can't do it all, then we shouldn't even try.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of what I do with people one-on-one.
Just do what you can.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
My whole entire thing, small, consistent changes over time lead to massive change.
Yeah,
Yep.
I got like chills. I'm like, that's what
Mhm.
I needed to hear.
Mhm.
Okay, so sleep.
Yep.
And then number 4.
4 is, substances.
Okay. Coffee, alcohol, drugs, what?
Mostly, mo smoking, alcohol, and drugs. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even weed. A lot of
So
people do
weed
the
a
weed thing
lot of
now.
people are doing weed, and, that hasn't been studied as much, but we and that's it's I hate to say it, but I think, and I'm just talking out of nothing, but I think that's person specific.
Okay.
I think that at the end of the day, it's a substance. It's impacting the brain somehow. It's
Yes.
impacting the body somehow. But some people, I don't know that they get any impact, but I have others who I'm thinking of, the folks that I see for anxiety, depression, and they
Yes.
smoke every night because they tell me that it helps their mood. And
Mhm.
I challenge every single one of them, just take a break. See if you can take a break. And it takes that. I had one person come back to me, I think like 8 months later, or maybe a year. It was a long time after I suggested it. And she says, "Oh my gosh, I did not want to listen to you. I thought you were just speaking horse shit." She's like, "But
Yeah.
I got rid of it. And can I tell you, I came off my anxiety medication." And it was just wild how
Yeah.
it just takes a little while. But yeah, I mean, weed, alcohol, tobacco. I don't know many people who are still smoking tobacco these days, but
Yeah, same.
and I know there's a big movement now of people reducing alcohol or going
Yeah.
sober, and
Yep.
it's great because it's linked to cardiovascular disease and what is it? Directly linked to 7 different cancers now. I mean, again, a big part of my space is middle-aged women, so it really impacts our hormones during the
Mhm.
transition, can
Mhm.
make menopausal symptoms so much worse.
Mhm.
And now, the mocktail game is very, very strong. So
It
if you
is.
like, I enjoy the taste of alcohol, and it's nice to have that as an alternative. But even those, some days I'm like, like my own taste for it changed so dramatically after I had my second kid. I mean,
Interesting.
I don't know where I put it.
Yeah.
I used to drink people under the table, and I don't know
So would
where I
Mark
put
and
it.
I.
But, like, and then after I had my second, it just didn't taste right to me. It
Yeah.
tasted different. I was like, this sucks." Like, I
Right.
love wine, but I don't
Right.
even want this anymore. It doesn't taste good. And then it started to hit me and completely trash my sleep, and so I didn't want that anymore. And I mean, I can probably count on one hand the number of drinks I have in a year now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't
Yeah.
do it for me.
I'm the kind of person that like I want one like $24 beautiful premium. I want like people using like eyedroppers
Yeah,
and
uh-huh,
stirring shit. Like it's
uh-huh.
gotta be the best fucking cocktail that
Make
I
it
can
worth
get.
it.
Make it worth it. And I'm going to enjoy one. It's got to be special. It's like
Mhm.
a cookie. I don't want
Yeah.
a cookie from the gas station. I want a cookie that someone poured their heart and soul into, and I want to
Yeah.
enjoy every crumb, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Substances. We're
Yeah.
up to 4. We're moving fast now.
Yeah. Yeah. These last ones I think might go a little faster. Next one is stress management and mindfulness.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I know, but we're all living up here. Our buckets are
Yeah.
overflowing,
Yeah.
and talk about impact on health. It cascades into every aspect of health. And
Yeah.
the healthiest people that I see doing all the right things, if I'm unable to identify, some metabolic or hormonal or digestive imbalance, That's the next, and I'm incorporating it throughout. I take such detailed intakes on people. I'm really asking about how does stress impact you? Where is it? Um, how does it manifest in your body? Because it shows up for us in a myriad of different ways, and
Mhm.
everybody's different.
Yeah.
So I'm working with people on that throughout the whole process. But if I've done all of the things and people are still struggling, it's like, okay, we've got to dig deeper into your nervous
Yeah.
system. So that's a really, really big one. And
Mhm.
I mean, COVID brought such a highlight into that.
Yeah.
So many people I am not even speaking. Everyone's mental health suffered. So for a vast majority of people really, really struggled. There were some people, they were living their best lives. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an
Yeah.
introvert. My fellow introverts who don't like to leave the house, they were loving it. Like, I don't have to
Perfect.
go anywhere. I don't have to see anybody. Amazing. But, a lot of people really struggled because for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it just brought such light to the issue and the fact that, and I'm so disappointed in our system because at the time, people were really conscious of it and tending to their mental health and nervous system needs. But since, I don't want to say like right after, I'm talking maybe since 2023, 2024, I feel like we're back before COVID and even way above in terms of the demands that people are putting on themselves and that the system and their employers are putting on them.
Mhm.
It is wild, the stories that
Mhm.
I hear from patients, and, eh,
Can you give me an
and,
example?
um, I mean, I have patients in my clinic, they are working 80 hours a week. They get up at 6, immediately on their phone, checking emails. They're
Jesus.
going to bed at 11:30 and getting interrupted with a phone call to get back on their computer. I was like, "Don't you have can't you turn that off?"
Yeah.
"No, I can't because the budgeting crisis and they fired 4 other people, so now I'm doing everybody else's job, and if I don't do this, I'm gonna get fired, or
Wow.
this big deal is gonna fall through, or X, Y." There's just so much, like, it's such a pressure cooker right now, and I'm seeing it across basically every industry. It's crazy, and it's such a disappointment because something's gonna burst, and it's not. Yeah, I don't know what it is,
Yeah. I mean, you're
but
also
it's
seeing on social too with just like all the ongoing violence and like
Mhm,
political upheaval. It's not only are we watching it, which is stressful and constant,
mhm,
but then we're also sort of policing how other people are experiencing. You're not doing enough, you're not saying enough,
mhm,
you don't care, you haven't donated.
mhm,
If you donated to Palestine, but you didn't donate to Haiti, like, what the fuck? You're racist, right? Or whatever it is. It's always something that
mhm,
is sort of making people feel boxed in this kind of like in the same ways that like they feel boxed in, like if I don't do this work I might lose my job and then there goes my livelihood, but then it's like if I don't respond to this crisis in this way then I might lose my community or my belonging,
right.
or people might think that I don't care. And I think that it's just constant stuff flying at us that in a lot of ways we can't do anything about because
Mhm,
like you can't completely disengage. So it's
right.
like how do you manage your engagement and therefore manage the stress? Like it's just tough.
It's really hard, and, setting boundaries, I'm only on Instagram. I'm not on any other platform
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
enough. My shit, my
It's
brain I can't handle
please,
it. I can't
please
handle
send
anything
like,
else.
oh my gosh.
Threads, TikTok, X, no, I can't do it. But, the amount of people I've unfollowed is so soul soothing because, again, I need to be informed, but I can't be taken down. And, I don't know, I can't remember if you know human design. Do you know human design?
I know human design. What's the like outcome? What is it called
It's like
again? Like
there's There's the generator and
Generator,
the generator.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a reflector, and there's less than
Okay.
1% of the population is a reflector. So basically, I have all of my channels wide open, and I absorb everybody's energy. It's almost like an empath to the nth degree, and I actually
Mm,
can feel and take on the energy of those around me, whether they're sitting right in front of me or in a space like social media. So I've had to curate this little bubble around me because I can just like talk about going down rabbit holes and doom scrolls. It's just, and I mean, it happens to all of us, but
yeah, yeah.
it's just basically just curating boundaries. And I use an app where I can't even log on to Instagram or
Nice.
social media at all. Like, it blocks me out for a little bit, which is really helpful on days when I'm already up here and I can't take one more
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
um so it's really, really challenging. And so finding something that works for you every single day
Mhm.
just to ground you,
Right.
because there's so much that takes us off the ground. Every minute of every day it can
That's so true.
happen. And so and there's so many ways to do this for yourself, and what works for me doesn't work for you, and vice versa.
Mhm.
And so just again working with people to find, like, we've got so many options, whether it's journaling or meditation or breath work or yoga or screaming into a pillow
Mhm.
or boxing. There's so many different ways to move the energy through. It's not about blocking it. um
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
a Gen Xer. I've worked really hard to move to get away from that. It's not about blocking what you're feeling, but it's a way of grounding yourself and moving it through in a healthy way, or in a nourishing way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And number 6, last
Number
one.
6 is community. Nobody talks about this.
Ah,
Social connections, like
yes.
actual social connection, not through a 3 by however big my phone is.
Yeah.
In-person social connection, people are not doing it enough, and studies show that, like, that piece makes or breaks who is living healthfully into their 90s,
Damn.
into their 80s and 90s.
Wow.
So finding your community, finding your people, cultivating that and nourishing that, and spending time with friends and loved ones outside of your home and making that a priority.
Does work count? Like,
I think that's very
yeah,
individualistic, right? Because some places of employment that I've been at, I absolutely get those needs met, where some it's the
gotcha.
opposite.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I think it totally depends on the situation that you're in.
Like, if you feel fulfilled by your environment, it probably counts. And if
Mhm.
your environment is draining you, then it probably doesn't count.
Exactly.
Like, that can be the marker.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But I
Yeah.
mean, I've talked to people, I'm not one of these people, but, like, they go and they have a really meaningful conversation with the person who's checking them out at the grocery store.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I'm not rude to people, I'm very friendly, but I don't open up conversations, it's just not my thing. But I have
Mhm.
other people, and that lifts them up, and that gives them that connection. So
Yeah.
it's there are so many different ways to do it.
So, okay. When you were a little girl, this is a big pivot. We're going left. When you were a
Mhm.
little girl, did you want to be a person in healthcare? Did you want to help people?
So I remember very few things about my childhood. I actually don't know. I don't know what I wanted to do.
Well,
My earliest memory of envisioning what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And that was when I was in high school.
okay.
Yeah. I wanted to be a brain surgeon. I was fascinated with neurology and the brain. And I was in a neurology class in high school. And my stepdad actually, coincidentally, at the same time, discovered he had a massive brain tumor and he had surgery. And I remember him bringing home his, like, MRI films, and I was able to look at it and see where the tumor was. And I was like,
Wow.
this is what I want to do. Um, he's fine.
Okay, good.
He
Good.
had
Good.
surgery. He's still with us. He's
That's
good.
good.
Um, but it was fascinating. And then I went to undergrad for med school. I wanted to go to med school,
Okay.
and undergrad just did a number on me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to not do that because I wasn't continuing to get all A's, and
Uh-huh.
everybody told me, like, "There's no way you're getting into med school." It's like,
Oh.
"Okay." So I took a break and I majored in psychology, but I minored in neuro because I still had a really I had a huge fascination for it. So I took a lot of neuro classes. And when I graduated, I knew I didn't want to be a therapist. Um, I knew that I did not want to work in a lab. I was like, I cannot possibly work in a lab. And those were like my two options at the time.
Mm.
So I didn't do anything. I went and I worked as, admin assistants in medical settings. I was, medical secretary for a little bit. And then I pivoted hard because I'm like, well, this job sucks. I hate this. And like, it is so hard. Um, People are sick, they're cranky, they're angry at the doctor for being late. And I was like, this is not fulfilling for me. This is not for me.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what the heck to do. So then I made a dramatic change and I went and I worked for a startup lighting company. And then
Okay.
I just needed a change. I'm like, let me see what corporate life is like. I don't know. And then from there, I worked at a travel company. It's where I met my husband. It's where I met Tom. And I did
Okay.
that for a long time. I did that for
Wow.
7 years and I
That is long.
loved it because I love to travel. I love to experience different cultures. I was so fortunate during my time there. I traveled to, I don't know, like 6 continents and 40 something countries. It was such a beauty to experience the world and like really fostered that passion in me. Um, but again, there I was like, I don't see where this is going. And I was looking ahead, like, what is my vision? Where am I going to be in 10, 20
Mhm.
years? And I always came back to medicine. And so that's when I actually I worked for Children's for a little bit and I went back to the neurologist I worked for and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm thinking about going back to med school. And he replied immediately. He's like, I remember you. Do not go to med school. He's like, I think you should go to NP school. So he was the one who raised it and he connected me with some people. I was really grateful for that. And I went into NP school and I knew going into it that I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into anything. A lot of my classmates, they went off into specialty, and there are very few of us who are still in primary care still. They either went off into specialty or they just left clinic setting altogether.
Wow.
They're doing the
Okay.
business side of things or they're doing aesthetics. But I didn't want to do that. My brain is all over the place and I like variety. And I didn't want to just go and work in GI. I mean, granted, I talk about poop every day with my patients. Like, I didn't wanna only talk about poop. I don't wanna only
Yeah.
do women's health. I like this big wide variety, and so family medicine seemed like a good fit. I discovered that I don't like working with the little population. I like working with adults. Um, and that's kind of how I landed here. Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
medicine has always been in me. I've had my own medical story from literal time of birth. I had a
Oh,
lot of medical
really?
stuff when I was a baby. Yeah, I had seizures when I was born, like came out and had seizures. I had to go in the NICU for a little while and they had no idea what was wrong with me. And um, it's a funny story. I was a very large baby. I was like 9'7" or something, and everyone
Mhm.
else in the NICU was preemies. And so, people would come and visit my mom. She's like, she's the fat one in the NICU. So it's like, she's the big one.
That's
But
great.
yeah.
Great start to life.
Um, so yeah, I had that when I was a baby. And then, just I broke a bunch of bones when I was in childhood. I had migraines early.
Oh.
I had a lot of musculoskeletal stuff when I was younger. And um in my 20s, I had, a lot of the stuff that I see now, continued migraines, really bad anxiety. I had IBS, so I had a lot of digestive stuff. And here is where I got shuttled to all the different specialists and different
Got
medications and
you.
let's try this
Yeah.
and let's do this. And none of it felt right. None of it worked. Half of it made me feel worse.
Mm.
And I honestly don't even remember. I saw probably at least a half a dozen spine specialists because my I had a really bad lower back. And this one guy, he was the last one I saw, and he said, everybody telling you to be sedentary is wrong because you're now 4 years into this and you're still sitting in my chair as the sixth opinion on how to get you better. He's like, so you need to live your life. You've got to figure out ways to move your body in the way that that helps you and, like, don't overdo it, and so I was like, "Okay," and that was kinda like a light that went off. It's like, "Okay, so I just need to do things differently." So that's when I started eating differently. I
Mm,
moved my body differently. I was already a yoga teacher, so I started doing more mindfulness.
okay.
I was still drinking like a fish, unfortunately. That was the one thing that I probably could have, like, fast-tracked my
Yeah.
healing if I just gave
Yeah.
that up a lot sooner, but that one took me a really long time. And, yeah, that's just kind of how things happened. And then during COVID, I had 2 really big, scary neurologic things happen during COVID and more recently, and it's just so funny how it all ties into my passion for neurology and the brain and neuroscience. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a reason why I'm interested in it, and there's a reason why it continues to happen to me. It's just it's wild how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond your now immediate family, did you have a lot of support or did you have to fight through to become who you are right now?
Um, I think it was a big difference undergrad and beyond, right?
Okay.
Like many others in my time period, a lot of pressure. You know, I'm a recovering perfectionist, a high
Mhm.
achiever, and it was expected for me to do very well. So that's why in undergrad, when I wasn't, and it was suggested for me not to go forward with pre med, it was devastating on all levels. Um, I don't know that they necessarily wanted me to be a doctor, but it was okay. Well, now what are you going to do?
Right.
And I immediately moved to Boston, which everybody was like, I've always been the different kid. Like I was the one who traveled out of the country and really enjoyed that. I like flew the nest earlier than they thought. So it's always a little bit different and supportive, yes, but not to like the point of real guidance. They kind of It was kind of like, "You're gonna do what you're gonna do. Like, just go ahead and do it." And now, they're so supportive and they love to see me kind of branching out, and because for a
Yeah.
while there, I just bounced from job to job to job right after college, and
Right.
it's like, "Where the hell am I going? I don't know." Like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm making it, I'm making things work, but
Yeah.
clearly there's something missing. So I think they're
Mm.
happy that I've established a base and I've been here for a while.
When you say you went to Boston, where are you from?
So I'm from Connecticut.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
from, Waterbury, Connecticut, very large
Okay.
city, and,
Gotcha.
yeah, I went to school at UConn and then
Okay.
moved to Boston, like, right after
Nice.
graduation.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did everything that you experienced with your family, like what are some of the things that's important to you as you're raising 2 kids now? Like what are
Mm,
things where you're like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna do that," or "I wanna lean more into this." Not that
mhm.
we'll get everything right, because we won't, what is right anyway, but, like, what are your kind of tenets of raising your children?
Um, there are a lot of big ones. One is feel your damn feelings, right? I feel
Mhm.
like I couldn't trust myself until I was well into my 30s. I didn't know. I've always felt, I don't have many memories of childhood, but I've always felt this deep intuition, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't know where it was coming from. And I didn't know if I should listen to it or not.
Yeah,
And it's because I didn't trust myself. I didn't know. So we're
yeah.
very open feelings home here. It's not always pleasant. I don't always love
Yeah,
it,
well,
but
yeah,
like it's
yeah, that's
we're gonna help you work through this. We're not gonna
Yeah.
shut it down. So that's one.
Mhm.
The other thing is like perfect is a four-letter word in this house. Like
Mm,
nothing is perfect. Nobody is perfect. We need to make mistakes. Mistakes are beautiful. It's how we grow and it's how we learn.
yeah,
Those are probably two big ones. And
yeah,
and I was raised with very strong work ethic. Like I said, like high achiever, really trying to balance that out. And both of our kids I think Tom and I were raised, very similarly. And our kids are also, they thankfully love school. Hopefully that continues and they love learning and they have this thirst for knowledge like we do too. But it's like it's that balance of we love to see you doing well and we also value and your kindness. Like, how are you helping people? How are you leading your friends? And so having those conversations as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like how you how if we go like all the way back to the beginning when you were talking about how integrative medicine like looks at the whole person, it's kind of
Mm.
almost the same approach you're taking to the
Mm.
body, right? Is
Mhm.
the approach that you're taking to raising your children. We want you to thrive, but thriving also like means so many different things, and there's different factors and ways to do that.
I want them to see me working hard and doing this and
Okay.
fighting for myself and fighting for this business. And I also need to be present. So it's like shutting that off is really hard. And, my kids are older now, they're 7 and 9, and they still are disappointed when, like, if I have a midweek client and I'm not back until late, or if I'm doing an event on a weekend, they're still disappointed. And it's like, no, I get to do this for myself. I'm excited to do this. And this is really important to me. And when I get home, I'm all yours. So it's like that balance, and talk about shutting off the brain. And like
Yeah.
that switch.
Yeah.
It's tricky. Yeah, it's
It
really
really.
tricky. Hmm.
Yeah. I don't think there's a I certainly haven't found and anything that satisfies all of the buckets,
Hmm.
like if I'm giving to one thing, then something by definition is just not getting.
Hmm.
And I guess like in some ways like that is kind of the lesson for our kids, right? You
Hmm.
actually cannot do it all,
Right. Like these
like
these expectations are completely impossible. And
impossible.
we try to say that nothing is impossible in our house, but, like, this is impossible.
But
We
that
can't
is, yeah, like
we
this will cause
can't hold all
stress
these goals
and
at one time.
yeah, but it's not easy. Simple but not easy.
Simple but not easy.
Um, so okay, we have to talk about Live Well Collaborative a little bit more before we leave. So someone feels like they're doing all the things right, quote unquote, but
Mhm,
something is still off. So they're gonna seek you out and they're gonna make an appointment and you're gonna do this detailed intake.
mhm.
And then fill in the gap for me. What
Yeah.
happens after that?
So there's a lot that happens before I actually see the person, before I actually meet them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a lot that happens before. So I have many intakes that they're gonna fill out.
Okay.
And it helps when somebody requests an appointment, they give a little blurb, like, what brings you in? And so I get a basic sense, some examples, I'm feeling really stuck in my body. I don't feel like myself.
Okay.
Uh, I'm perimenopausal and none of my providers will prescribe me HRT, or I'm fatigued and everybody says my labs are normal, but I still feel like crap, or
Okay.
like, I just don't know where to start. So these are
Okay.
things, and so that cues, I have several different intakes that I can send them, and I go deep into their history. Like, I'm talking about previous health concerns, what medications they're on, any other diagnoses, what they've done in the past to address current concerns. Um, all kinds of stuff that we go into. And then I have a questionnaire that addresses every single system in the body. And so I'm
Okay.
getting a sense of the story that they're telling me and the symptoms that they're having. And then from there, I curate a specific lab panel for them. And this is all included in the price of that first visit. And so a lot of people will have already had, I've already had labs done. Great. If they're within X time period, share them with me. So I'm not, I don't need to repeat. I just, whatever the word is, start from scratch. I don't need to repeat things that were already done recently, but I'll add in others that I think would be really pertinent and helpful.
Okay.
So then I gather that data, and then I kind of put it a little summary together and what I call an insight report. I'm tying their concerns into what I'm seeing in the data because, so many people are out there doing these self ordering their labs, but
Yes.
it's not connecting to the person.
Yes.
So, this mild abnormality that you're seeing on this lab ordered by this wellness company, and they're suggesting their AI algorithm supplement for you to take, might really not be appropriate if you're not having any concerning symptoms associated with that data, right? So, like, I'm matching data with the person. And obviously, there's going to be some holes that I need to fill in. And that's what happens when we meet in person. So I
Ah,
get this kind of summary. Then we meet in person. I review all of the lab data that I have. I review the snapshot that I have. We're filling in the gaps. And then I come up with initial steps, initial recommendations. And That's going to be lifestyle stuff, some supplements, yes, for some people. And then
Mhm.
from that point, it's nice to have that all included because it gives people data, which people really want data these days. They want to know, they want validation like, oh, my other person said that everything looked normal, but she checked something different or she's looking at this a different way. I'm going to use vitamin D as an example.
Right.
Personally, I think everyone in this part of the world needs to be checked for vitamin D because we are all vitamin D deficient. And
Right.
there's a spectrum. The lab spectrum at your regular, like Quest and LabCorp, the normal range is between 30 and 100. So that if your lab shows that you're 31, your provider's going to say everything's fine, like totally normal. You don't need to supplement. But if your levels are 31, well, first of all, I'm going to suggest boosting that anyway, because I think my optimal range for folks is between 50 and 80. And again, I'm using
Right.
that as an example. And,
Right.
especially if you're telling me that your energy is in the tank and you're really feeling some mood symptoms like, okay, this vitamin D can really, really help you. So
Right.
that's just an example of how I'm tying in symptoms to data that I see.
You know what
Um,
another thing is too that
mhm,
just you just jogged this for me. I maybe read or heard or something that as the population gets sicker, what's considered in the normal range also changes.
yeah.
You even said normal doesn't mean optimal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in proximity to maybe
To the
disease or
population.
something really
Mhm.
bad, right? But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean really good either.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that goes for a lot of labs that we're checking on folks. So it's nice because I'm giving them data and information and education and initial steps. I'm always giving them some lifestyle tweaks to do, even if like I'm thinking of my high performers that I've seen. People who are like doing all the right things, I'm still giving them something. I'm like, I'm pulling one or two things. I'm like, why don't you try this and see if this makes a difference
Right.
in XYZ area of your life? And then from there, like I said, I've got people who take that first visit, that first consult and run with it. And they do the lifestyle stuff. And some of them, I think half of them have come back to see me for a follow-up. And the other half are like, I'm good. I'll check in
Great.
with you when things change. And then
Okay.
I've got a whole other host of folks who they want to move into a more comprehensive program. From there, I have 3 different tiers of a 3-month program that people can enroll in,
Okay.
and that's basically it's what's involved and what the cost is just depends on what's included.
Okay.
If you're looking for just continued lifestyle supplement guidance, um, additional lab markers to be checked, that's going to be on the
Okay.
lower tier. Most people go into the middle tier whenever there's medications because there are, compliance factors. I want to see people more regularly if we're doing
Right.
medications, that sort of thing. And then I have a really high ticket option where I'm including a lot of different things.
Okay.
Everybody who's in, the middle or the high tier, they get an extra service included, whether it's, I'm offering Reiki, acupuncture, if they need to be connected with a personal trainer or a dietitian or physical therapy, I'm helping arrange that. I've got my own little collection that I'm building of folks that we have aligned values and perspectives and approaches that I'm helping introduce people. And it's hard for people who have never connected with a dietitian or who have never connected with a personal trainer
That's true.
to think about, gosh, do I really want to invest in that? So I will take care of that cost. It's like, I'm going to make the introduction. I'll take care of it. It's going to be already included in the package. So that's not an added burden for you. So you test it out. And if it's not a good fit, then we'll find somebody else that is. So then that happens in the first 3 months. And like a lot changes in those first 3 months. But for folks who have been struggling for a while, and for folks who have come out on the other side, like a lot changes in 12 weeks, but we really need like a year before we're making any like big health changes. And I'm thinking about the people who have been stuck and they've been shuttled to all these other
Yeah.
folks. So we continue to work together. So after those 3 months, we move into a maintenance program. And again, that's tiered. And, we can go from really simple follow ups and care with some labs thrown in the mix and other services
Mhm.
to something really intense and involved.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything in terms of Live Well Collaborative or any of the other things that we talked about that you want to make sure is said that I maybe haven't asked or
Mm.
maybe we didn't go deep enough?
I mean, we hit on a lot of, the boring stuff is the important stuff.
Mhm.
Your body's always talking to you, whether you can hear it or
Mhm.
not. And so that's the other thing. Like, I help you listen to your body. Like,
Yes.
people
Okay.
don't, when I'm connecting the dots between the story that they're telling me I'm like, "Do you realize that that over there is connected to this over here?" Like, "No, I never thought about that." It's like, "Okay, well, let's just try it. Let's try
Yeah.
connecting them. Let's try something to help work that out." So it's I want to help people learn what their body is telling them, be able
Mhm.
to find strategies to work with that.
Mhm.
Nobody's broken, nothing needs fixing. We've got to work with the signals that our bodies are telling us. And knowing that every season, whether it's postpartum or perimenopause or, people transitioning, like my folks who are retiring, like that's a whole other conversation as to how that impacts
Yeah.
people. It's wild. So for each season of life, our health is changing. And so what I'm recommending to you now could be totally different than what we're going to talk about in 2 years.
Mm.
And so that's the important part. A lot of people think like, oh, well, I did that and it didn't work for me. Or I did that and it worked for me then, but it's not working for me now. So I'm not doing something right. It's like, no, things just change. The
Yeah.
environment outside is changing. Our
Right.
internal environment is changing. Our internal environment's response to the external environment is
Yeah.
always changing too. So it's working with that. Um,
Mm.
so that's really important. And then I think the last thing we sort of touched on it, but I feel like two big needles for health and wellness and how we're feeling. One, and I know it's a hot topic and whatever. I can't think of words today. Circadian health.
Mm.
Trying to get our circadian health in order, meaning trying to get the light in our eyes from outside when we first wake up and working with our dietary patterns, trying to end our meals a little bit early to let our body get into rest and digest, and basically having some sort of nighttime routine to establish to the body it's time to wind down. Going back to like sleep is so important.
Right.
So that's something. And then nervous system. We each have a different sensory blueprint with our forward facing senses, tight, sight, smell, touch, hear. Oh my God, I missed and taste. Um, we could really crave high intensity, like the high spectrum of each of those, or we really want to shy away from some of those or somewhere in the middle. And then we've got proprioceptive and vestibular input. And we have our own sensory blueprint. And if we can tie into what our nervous system is asking for, that can kind of help move the needle when it comes to managing our stress and overwhelm. And that's like a whole different conversation for another day.
Interest
But yeah,
interesting.
that's something that I'm really getting into this year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that also, like, kind of goes back to listening to the body, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times
Mhm.
we'll say that we feel like something is off or
Mhm.
like, it doesn't always have to be pain and suffering that the body is speaking to us. It could
Right.
be, "I'm overwhelmed. This is too loud. This is too
Mhm.
fast. This is too
Mhm.
much," whatever it
Mhm.
is, or
Yeah.
the energy that we're receiving from other people. Like, the body is saying something.
Yeah. So I'm starting to work with folks on it. It's really exciting. I love it.
That's really cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
I will definitely wanna know more about that. That's
Yeah.
really it's interesting to me as more and more people are talking about the nervous system, one in general, but
Yeah.
also I'm interested in capacity, like
Mhm.
my actual capacity versus the
Mhm.
story I'm telling myself about my
Mhm.
capacity.
And they're all related, right?
Of course they are.
All connected.
Of course
All
they are.
connected.
Damn it. Maybe
Yeah,
I
we are
should have been a doctor. Like, this is my I'm like, I could talk about this all day. Like, I
yeah,
just
we are
want to
such
know.
complex human beings. It's beautiful and frustrating and fascinating and
Yes.
just it's amazing. I love it.
It is. It is
Yeah.
amazing. I love it too. I love it too. Is there a quote or piece of advice that you live by?
Um, so a number of years ago, I got a keychain. And I don't know why, but I had it stamped out in Braille. I think I didn't want it to be obvious, but I wanted to be able to feel it,
Mm,
to know because the dots are raised. It
right.
says, "Be here now," and it's a constant reminder for me to ground myself and
Mhm,
just be more present because so many of us are living in the past or anxious
mhm.
about the future and we're missing so much of what is right in front of us.
Yes.
And so it's a physical reminder that I need probably every day, even though I've had this keychain for I don't know 20 years. But yeah, that's why.
Wow.
Mhm,
In the spirit of moving further forward,
mhm.
what is your next right step?
Um, I've learned just to go with my gut. The first thing that came into my head is to give more.
Ooh,
So I've offered a variety of free offerings, people who really like my style and resonate and with my approach. But they can't see me either because they don't live in Massachusetts and they can't travel here to see me one on one, or if it's just not a good fit right now, financially or logistically, what have you. I want to still offer things that people can benefit from. And
definitely.
so, I've put out a couple of free master classes. I just did a free 10-day healthy habits mini series that kind of touched a lot about what we talked about today. And
Mhm.
then we're in the midst of a 3-week mental health series. And so I want to do more things like that because there's so much noise and overwhelm out there, and people, there's such, what's the phrase that everyone gets, such a trust recession that I want people to be able to be comfortable and trust me. And so I want to be able to offer these things and say, like, this is how I can help you. And I'm not
Yeah,
chasing you. And I want to be able to just offer this to you to see if this resonates with you.
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, the final thing is tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. So my website is livewellcollaborative.com. And on Instagram, it's live.well.collaborative. And again, I'm not on any other platforms. That's it.
A website and an Instagram is
Site and
plenty.
yeah, and I have a blog. I put up a blog like twice a month. I send out newsletters, one or more times a month, and I'm trying to do a lot of local activities too, things that people can pop into in person.
Nice.
Yeah, really excited about these.
Good. Wow. Thank you so much for this conversation. Like, it could have
Thank
been
you.
another couple of hours, honestly, because there are so many things like that we couldn't even possibly touch on that are related to your work. But
Mhm.
thank you for being so generous and giving as much as you did. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
asking me. This was so fun.
Of course. Thank you. All right, everybody,
All
hit up
right.
Nicole, and we'll see you next time.